Hello everyone, welcome to my second vlog for Module 7108 of the St. Mary's University MSc course in Strength and Conditioning. The topic is Skill and Capacity Issues in Speed and Agility. As described in the previous vlog, a skill issue is related with motor control. Problems with a movement might be related with lack of familiarity or adaptations to a previous capacity limitation. On the other hand, capacity issues are exclusively related with the actual capacities of the athlete, such as force or velocity production and mobility restrictions. For this vlog, the movements which will undergo analysis are a sprint acceleration regarding speed and a 180-degree change of direction regarding agility. I will start by approaching a skill issue both in sprint acceleration and a 180-degree change of direction. Lateral, frontal, and posterior views were recorded for every movement. In the first frame, the athlete shows an adequate forward lean with a favorable high knee position of the swing leg. However, it is clear that he fails to achieve full extension of the hip and knee during the toe-off. In the first step, he is able to keep a negative touchdown distance and a similar angle of the shank and trunk, which allow greater production of horizontal force. Yet, he starts to struggle to keep a straight position of his back. Expectedly, as the movement continues through the second step, the forward lean angle and hip flexion of the swing leg start to change considerably. As he reaches contact, it can be seen that his touchdown distance is now noticeably increased and the head dips down to compensate the already vertical position of his trunk. The same pattern occurs throughout the rest of the movement, with the characteristic reduced forward lean throughout the following steps and larger touchdown distance, which relates to increased braking forces and higher ground contact times. In the frontal and posterior views, the flexed position of the head is also apparent straight from the start of the movement. Also, there seems to occur a non-optimal adduction of the right hip, causing the knee to cross the midline during the swing phase. After the analysis, it can be said that most of the issues found seem to be related with posture or limb positioning problems, which would be expected if the athlete lacked familiarity with this movement. For the change of direction drill, there seems to exist a contrast in performance between both legs. This would suggest a possible capacity problem regarding force production deficits. In the right leg cut, he is unable to keep his center of mass over the left foot, displaying a curved back and overly flexed knee. The same does not happen with the opposite leg, where his strength position is optimal and is capable to keep a stiff and straight knee, resulting in reduced ground contact time. Knowing this athlete, I was not expecting to find any major capacity problems. Nonetheless, extensive testing was done regarding mobility, strength, and power characteristics. Mobility testing consisted of active leg extension, hip abduction, hip flexion, ankle dorsiflexion, shoulder extension, and the functional isometric wall drill. It was not found any relevant deficit or differences between each limb. Regarding strength assessment, maximal hip adduction and abduction force production tests were performed using the Smart Groin Dynamometer, with positive results. A close to maximal back squat showed that it could successfully lift at least 2 times his body weight. Tests using a jumping mat showed great values for counter-movement jump and no relevant deficits between each leg for single leg CMJ. Same thing applied to the drop jump, reaching close to 3.5 RSI bilaterally and over 2 RSI for each leg. Finished the assessment, it was clear that no major capacity issue was found, so a training protocol was developed based on the argument that the issues found were mainly due to skill problems. The classic wall drills were performed in combination with a box push drill and the sprinter resisted acceleration to enhance horizontal force production with an optimal forward lean and straight back. To improve change of direction performance, stiff lateral landings when consecutive lateral jumps were done. Also, the drill was deconstructed in decelerating, braking, and reacting phases. Modified depth jumps were also performed together with accelerating drills in response to external stimulus. Velocity-based and rate of force development training was included under jump squats, cleans, and its derivatives. Finally, track training consisting in the actual movements was also implemented, where the athlete could have immediate access to footage of his attempts and correct accordingly. After a few sessions with this training program, the athlete was reassessed in the track. The same views were recorded for every movement. There was an obvious improvement in technique. Forward lean at the start is increased, maintaining a high knee position of the swing leg, but now achieving a full triple extension at toe off. In the first step, touchdown distance reached even better negative positioning, while being able to maintain a straight back and head positioning. All throughout the movement, the improvements are clear. The forward lean at toe off is maintained, combined with a high hip flexion of the swing leg. The touchdown distance, even if expected to increase with each step, did not reach problematic values. Overall, limb and trunk positioning are also correct. From the posterior and anterior views, it is also possible to observe an improved position of the head and spine, with reduced adduction of the right hip at the swing phase. The improved performance was also common to the change of direction drill. Both legs now show a similar pattern, with a comparable optimal position of the trunk for each movement. Equally, the position of center of mass and knee flexion angle are equivalent. Moving on to the second athlete, whose capacity issues will be considered as a cause for reduced performance. The same movement analysis was done, preceded by an assessment in the weight room and respective intervention strategy. Due to the nature of capacity issues and short available time to intervene, a reassessment in the track was not viable. Looking at the first frame, it shows a good lean position associated with a high knee for the swing leg. However, his head is already up, which will probably relate with the inability in maintaining the forward lean. Also, the ankle in the swing leg fails to reach an optimal dorsiflex position. As soon as a contact occurs in the first step, the touchdown distance is noticeably too large, and the ankle shows at best a neutral position, which will relate to increased ground contact time and braking forces. His head is already completely straight. As expected, he is unable to maintain the same degree of forward lean. The knee in the swing leg is now incapable to reach the same height. Positively, the trunk and limbs display an aligned position. As the movement continues, the touchdown distance increases considerably, probably in an attempt to increase force production, which underpins lack of leg stiffness or poor force production of knee and hip extensors. Looking from the anterior and posterior views, there is a midline cross of the left leg in the beginning of the swing phase, which seems to aggravate with increased speed. This might also indicate a capacity problem regarding asymmetries of mobility or strength between limbs. Moving on to the change of direction drill, there are evident problems at first analysis, such as poor trunk positioning and stability, and prolonged ground contact time. Again, this might suggest a capacity problem related with eccentric force production or slow contraction speeds. He fails to maintain a low body position, and the center of mass shifts toward the braking leg. During the contact with the ground, the athlete splits the skill in two distinct phases, braking and pushing, highly increasing his ground contact time. This is clear representation of poor eccentric strength and rate of force development. Assessment in the gym exposed large but symmetric deficits regarding mobility for the posterior chain. Supine leg extension and ankle dorsiflexion tests were used as reference. Hip flexion range of motion was not ideal, but also not as evident. Now, the next few mobility tests showed particular deficits regarding the left leg. Abduction mobility had a considerable asymmetry together with hip internal and external rotations. These deficits could be related with the issues found regarding the position of the left leg during the swing phase of the sprint acceleration. Shoulder extension showed no relevant deficits. Regarding max strength assessment using the smart groin dynamometer, there was an unusual dominance of higher hip adduction strength when compared with hip abduction. Low recruitment of the glute muscles can negatively affect performance in sprint qualities. Unilateral testing supporting this deficit and allowed to uncover slightly higher deficits for the left leg, reinforcing the mobility issues exposed previously. Single leg 1 repetition max testing was done with the leg press. Since the athlete is not proficient squatting, he was able to lift approximately 1.2 times his body weight with each leg, which is borderline acceptable. The major deficits were found with the jumping mat, where overall power output was low and reactive strength index did not reach 2.0 bilaterally and just surpassed 1.0 for single leg testing. Based on the issues found during the assessment, the intervention program included a lot of mobility drills to increase posterior chain mobility, together with hip rotation, abduction, and flexion. Functional drills allow to stimulate core work in order to enhance trunk stability. Slow eccentric training both facilitates active mobility and high force production. Classic lower limb exercises were also prescribed to increase overall lower limb strength, such as single leg bridges, heavy sitting squats, and high step-ups. Regarding landing and plyometrics, fast eccentric recruitment and stability was trained through depth landings and drop jumps. Fast forward hops and consecutive calf jumps were used to stimulate unilateral reactive strength and leg stiffness. Finally, specific drills aimed to directly improve the actual sport skill performance were also included as elastic resisted sprints and single leg lateral jump variants. Okay, that's it guys from the second vlog about skills versus capacities issues in speed and agility. Thank you for listening.